documenting the front lines of the AI revolution, the AI Rebels podcast.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the AI Rebels podcast. We're very excited to have Robert Scoble here with us today. I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar with Robert and all that he's done over the past several years. We're excited to kind of get your take on the AI space. Robert, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. I've been doing this a while. Siri was launched on my show a long time ago, and that was the first AI consumer app, and I've been watching this space ever since.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say launched on your show, like what does that mean?
The three founders of Siri came to my house twice to launch their product. First time I found a whole bunch of bugs, and so they Adam Chire, who started Siri, like, oh, in fact, I've seen the back end of Siri. I'm one of the few people outside of who works there who's seen how it works in the back end, and yeah, it's crazy stuff. I interviewed them on stage last year, the three
Okay.
founders. So I've been
Oh,
following
that's
them
awesome.
ever since. And
Yeah, it'll be
two of them started a company called Viv, which sold to Samsung and
okay.
all that. And I wrote 2 books on spatial computing. So I've been around.
Yeah, you've done a few things.
Done a
Yeah.
few things. Launched many companies because I had a
Oh,
famous blog in Silicon Valley for a decade, right?
right.
And I had
Yeah.
really the only place to talk about startups for a long time, right?
Yeah.
I was the first one to link to TechCrunch. There was no TechCrunch when I started blogging, right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
First one to talk about Flipboard and Cloudera. I was the 79th user of Instagram. Long history, but we're here to
Yeah.
talk about AI.
No, it's good to get the full
Everything is
picture
led
because
up
that
to it.
means you have a
So,
bigger
yeah.
background.
Yeah. And I'm following 25,000 people on X.com, all in the AI space. I'm put them all in the list. So if you go to my profile, you can see
Hmm
5,500 companies. I'm the only human who's mapped out the whole AI space on X.com, both in companies and people. And that's very useful for your
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
Super useful. Yeah. We'll
Yeah. Because
definitely
most people
include
can
that.
only follow 2,000 people. And I have an old account, so I could follow as many as I want.
Loopholes. All about it.
Loophole. You got to be on
That's
X
awesome.
for Twitter for 17 years. You know, then you get the loophole.
Yeah. There you go. I missed out. Big time. So Robert, tell us about, your where are you at now with the
Yeah.
AI space? What are you doing?
Well, I'm interviewing a bunch of entrepreneurs on my show on Unaligned. I've done about 30 so far, and I have another 5 to run next week. And then I'm watching the whole world on my screens. I wish I could show you my screen. It's like living in the Matrix. I use X Pro, and each of those lists is a column, and it just refreshes continually. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to find out where the future is going and try to help it along, help it get here
Yeah.
faster.
We have the same goal. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So a lot
Yeah.
of stuff shipped this week. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
OpenAI had a
wild.
big
I
developer
haven't
So
even,
day.
much.
let's see if I have the ChatGPT canvas yet. I haven't seen it shown up yet. Have you had a chance to use it, Robert?
I have not. I've been busy the last couple of days. So
Yeah, it's
everything.
like if you're busy for a few days, you miss something. That's how
Uh,
fast it's coming.
Seriously.
busy for a couple hours. You know?
Yeah, and you're like, oh,
I
they
come
just
back to
dropped a
X and
whole
it's
new
like,
thing.
whoa, this shipped and that shipped. You know.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Robert, are there any specific, obviously you're keeping tabs on, we'll call it the big AI data.
Yeah.
You're just watching everything. Are there any trends that you're seeing right now that
Yeah.
are interesting?
Yeah, I'm going to Tesla's event next week and gonna see their humanoid robot. I'm hot and bothered. In fact, this is the X1 company's T-shirt.
Oh,
They make a
nice.
humanoid robot called Neo, and I'm hot and bothered by that. And then I'm hot and bothered by augmented reality glasses, which we'll see a few released in about end of next year. I've already seen the glasses, the lenses at Display Week. LG and Samsung and BOE and a few other companies are making little tiny projectors that are about quarter the size of a sugar cube that'll fit on the edge of a glasses and shove light into a waveguide that gives you an image in the glass that's in front of your eyes. Right.
So any set of glasses could be adapted.
No, you're gonna have to buy a new pair of glasses for this.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have to have the waveguides are 2 pieces of glass with a polymer in between with a bunch of
Got it.
a billion mirrors,
Yeah.
and the projector shoves light through the optic into your eye. It's pretty high, interesting technology.
Yeah.
But those you're going to see a bunch of them come out in about 12 months. And then we've seen Meta's Orion glasses, which is actually a holographic display, which gives you a much deeper image than the waveguides. And those are probably coming in 2027, somewhere around there. Because right now they cost $10,000 to make the glasses, and they don't have enough compute to drive them and battery and all that. So, yeah. New stuff is coming. Anyways, that's the trend. You know, where are we going? Once we get the glasses, we really start moving from a 2D world, because I'm talking to you on a 2D screen, to a 3D world where the computing is all around you. I have a Vision Pro, an Apple Vision Pro, and it already does that. If you go to the Apple Store and put it on, you see the Apple Store all around you. You're not seeing the Apple Store. You're seeing the volumetric pixels that look like the Apple Store.
Yeah.
So, you know, and so that's the foundation of the new holodeck, which end of the next year or into 2026, you're going to see a new Vision Pro, which will have a lot more GPU on it to drive these 3D experiences, photorealistic experiences. So I call it the holodeck, but you know, it'd be fun and sexy instead of calling it a digital twin world or something like that.
Yeah. Right. I like that. So
and then you're seeing all the models that you can talk to, and you know, run agents, and man, yesterday I saw a startup that's their AI agents go and look for customer feedback on the web, right? I.e. trends or marketing data. Oh, we should add a feature. It decides to add the feature, codes the feature, and then checks it in, and does quality control, runs a whole bunch of tests on it. And then if it passes all the tests, it checks it in and puts it on their website or on their mobile app, right? All automatically with no humans involved. And it's like, oh, this is bringing us a new world, right? A new agent world is coming.
That's what I've been trying to preach to everybody I know for the last 2 years, that just like go try these tools out now, because it's a taste of the future, and it's going to get real weird. You know,
and it keeps
5
getting
years
better,
down the road.
Right? Absolutely,
it's incredible. I'd be curious. Are there any other?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'd be curious. Are there any other trends in AI wearables at all that you're seeing that seem to have legs at all? Because I've kind of checked out of that space, but you seem more plugged in than I do.
I have an Aura ring, right? They just came out with a new ring, which is more accurate, faster, smaller, right? So everything's getting smaller and faster and better. And you start thinking about I've been talking to medical device companies that are working on a whole bunch of things, including Sirius co-founder Dag Kitlaus. He has a company called Riva Health, where you put your finger on a smartphone camera like that, and it tells you your blood pressure, right? So you start thinking about, what are they going to do with Apple Watches of the future to see that kind of health data going through? And certainly the glasses are going to be watching a variety of things. I don't know if you knew, but there's 13 diseases on the back of your eye that can express themselves on the back of their eye. So if you have an eye sensor looking at the back of your eye, you can see that kind of stuff. But there's a lot to come. We're just at the beginning of medical device, you know.
I'm so excited about the medical
and then
field.
we haven't even started talking about brain computer interfaces, you know. Let me get one.
Yeah.
Right. You know, like this Next Mind device has a bunch of sensors, and it sits on the back of your head like this, and it can sort of tell what you're looking at. It's like, whoa. Now, Snapchat bought this company, and it's still too dorky to be a consumer product, but that shows you what a lot of people are trying to do, you know.
Yeah, and what may be coming down the line.
And this is
It's getting
obviously
wild out
has an
there.
AI computer listening to the
Yeah.
electrical signals coming off the back of your head, trying to
Mhm.
figure out what you're looking at. Mark
Wow.
Zuckerberg has an armband that you can just think about shooting a gun and it shoots the gun, right? Because all you have to do is send a little bit of electricity down your nerves, just a little twitch, boom.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe on the flip side of this, all these things, there's so many exciting changes coming. Is there anything that you're maybe nervous about or scared
Oh,
for?
jobs. Jobs are
Really?
I mean, I had the whole, I sat next to an AI safety researcher coming back from London, I don't know, almost 18 months ago now. And he explained to me the existential risks that AI could bring someday. I'm like, how does that work? He's like, well, AI is already beating doctors at seeing tumors in scans. So take that, 1,000 more steps. Maybe someday it decides it doesn't need us because we're no good. Right.
Mhm.
And we'll see. I mean, that's a ways off, but that's a big threat. I think jobs are the bigger one for
Mm.
humans, and we don't have a policy to deal with. Just start with number one job in America is truck drivers. 1.3 million
Hmm.
people drive a truck. I could state definitively those jobs are gone in 20 years, right? So what are we
Right.
going to do about
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are
And it's
the
coming
questions that
after
I'm.
programmers, if you haven't noticed.
For sure.
Now, you can say, well, yeah, I mean, the company yesterday is writing features with no humans
Yeah,
involved, right?
Mhm.
So
I've been
it's
hearing
coming
really good
after
things
a
about
lot of
Devin.
jobs.
So yeah, yeah. Just recently, I read there was a paper that came out that found that GPT-4 alone was better than either humans or humans with GPT-4 at, I don't remember the exact diagnosis task right
Yeah.
now, but it was some medical diagnosis, and that honestly shocked me. I suspect that there's probably, when you dig into it, some problems with methodology from like a medical standpoint,
Yeah.
but it is. I do believe it enough that like it's to believe that we're headed to a weirder world, a better one in my opinion, but
On the
certainly
other
much
side,
weirder.
it
And
should
there's
be a better one because we shouldn't have to do boring jobs. I mean, I worked at a
Mhm.
manufacturing line at Hewlett Packard, one of my
yeah,
first jobs, and it's a boring job, just standing there shoving a board into a conveyor belt, right? Who wants to do that
Right.
kind of job? A lot of people have to do that kind of job to put food on the table, and that's the real problem. Is how do you take care of those people, get them retrained for something that's relevant, a job that's relevant, because jobs are not going away soon, right?
right.
you know,
Right.
Just the nature is going to change
yeah, and they're very
significantly.
technical jobs, right? And if you don't have if you don't know how to build AI or a humanoid robot, okay, that's a tough one, right? Because
Hmm.
we don't have
Yeah,
good
it'll be
policies, and
interesting.
we're split in the country, and we're
Oh
just
yeah.
not just having a good discussion about, okay, how do we really get ahead of this thing and set up some policies to really help people get retrained and take care of putting food on the table for a few years while they do that, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But
I'd be curious, have there been any pieces of regulation or legislation that you've seen that has been interesting on that front, or has it been pretty
no.
dry?
The people are trying to say guaranteed minimum income is the way to go, but I mean, it didn't even come up in the presidential debates, right? Because it's not
Right.
a thing that's easy to talk about with people, particularly people who think socialism is horrible, right? How do you have a conversation with somebody like that on that side of the political spectrum? It's a really hard thing to sell to Americans, and this the problem. We always fight the last war. We never fight the next war until we have to,
Hmm.
right? And someday the the political will of the country will change based on what's going on. But right now, the jobs report just came out this morning, and everybody has a job. That's
Yeah.
not true, but
Right.
jobs are doing real well right now in the country. So it's hard to have that kind of conversation at
Yeah.
this cycle. But
Right.
it's going to come up because you saw it. I bet you have call center jobs are going away because
Yeah.
AI can do a call better than human beings in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. Um, next week at Tesla saying I'm expecting to see a Optimus robot making a McDonald's hamburger and handing it to us, right? That's a
Mhm.
signal that there's a lot of jobs that are going to be rototilled and done away with, and we just don't have a good conversation about that, which leads to policy, right? I haven't seen
Mhm.
anything
Yeah,
that's
it'll be fascinating to see the shift of, okay, you're no longer on a line making, well, and that's where it's interesting. Will humans be involved in making the Optimus robot, or will they'll just be Optimus robots making the Optimus robots, and then,
I
you
don't
know what
know.
I
The
mean? Like it,
K-Scale Robot Company in Palo Alto, California, has a grid of 3D printers that prints their robot, and you could see a world where one of those early robots takes the parts off of the 3D print out of the 3D printer and assembles them.
right?
So it's yeah. Why would you have humans putting together these robots, right?
Hmm.
At some point, we're probably couple of years, 5 years away from that.
You think
Right?
it's that soon?
I think it's going to come sooner than people are expecting. We're going to have a pretty good idea of how fast these things are learning it next week at Tesla. And we've seen
Yeah.
other robots, Figure is showing off their robot walking around.
Hmm.
It looks dorky right now and rough, but you know how AI works. It just keeps getting better and better and better.
Yeah,
And
learning.
it'll be 20% better next year than this year, then 20% better again, which accelerates, right? So you start saying,
Mhm.
well, how many years does it need to get really amazing where it's throwing a football with you in the street? Not that
Yeah,
many, less than 10, right?
yeah,
So,
Rowboat John Elway before the end of the century.
you know,
yeah.
yeah, a lot of change is coming, yeah. But back to AI, what concerns me about AI. I mean, you see, people are still having trouble figuring it all out. How to deal with hallucinations, how to convince people at a company to use it. Right, that's
Hmm.
a that's a real one. Right, there's
Yeah,
a
the
lot
human
of
trust.
human trust, but also humans don't like change, and they're being
Hmm.
thrown a lot of new things. I mean, I have
Mhm.
5,500 companies in my list on X.com, all in AI. That's a huge amount of change for people to swallow.
Yeah.
Even for me, I can't use all that. I have
Hmm.
I have the same 24 hours everybody else has. I can't
Yeah, right.
I can't even chew on a piece of that, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
in fact, that's what a lot of people are working on, an AI that you talk to, and then the AI figures out which company to use, right?
Hmm.
And how to use it. And we're seeing a lot of things come along that are like, oh, really? It can take a screen capture. It can look at the screen. It can figure it out like a human being can. Oh, me, that's going to be
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Right? You
Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, I guess on this vein, do you have some tools that you use regularly that you really like that?
I still am stuck on Chat GPT. I'm trying all of them,
Yeah.
like Gemini and Claude from Anthropic and Perplexity. But Chat GPT is still the one that sticks with me, particularly because of the new voice features, because you can
Hmm.
just talk to this thing and it's
It's
fast and it's
crazy.
good, and it
Yeah.
it works in a noisy environment because the Whisper API is so good, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. My friends who code say that they use like GitHub Copilot or
Hmm.
Microsoft Copilot,
Mhm.
or Claude. My friend Dylan likes using Claude for coding. So everybody will have their little favorite, and you'll have to switch them every month because every month they change. Right? It's
Yeah.
like it's a
Yeah.
leapfrog industry. It's like, oh, who just came out with a new model this morning? Llama. Oh,
Exactly.
wow, or Baidu, or there's so
Yep.
much change in this industry right now.
Yeah.
So I'd
Yeah.
be curious. You've been in the podcasting game for a long time and just kind of like the
Yeah.
social media tech world for a while. How do you think AI is going to affect the way that we consume and create content? Do you think
Oh,
that
it's
social
already
media
doing
has
that.
a future?
It's already doing that. I don't care about doing long, boring videos anymore because, hey, you can stick your hour-long video into Gemini and have it write a transcript and then play with the transcript and talk to the transcript, right? Or talk to all of my videos, right? You can.
Yeah.
A human being doesn't have 30 hours to go through 30 videos. Stick them all in an AI and talk to it. You know, what is there here that's useful to me, right? Or
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
whatever. And so, yeah, that's real powerful. And I did it myself with Lex Fridman had an 8-hour video with somebody,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, there's no way I'm watching all 8 hours of that. Oh, I'll stick it in the AI. In 2 minutes, I had a transcript out of an 8-hour video. And then I was
Yeah.
talking to the transcript and, give me the top 5 points, right? Or tell me what's the most interesting AI topic that these two talked about or something like that, right? It's like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where we've talked about this a lot on here.
And now people are using AI to create their podcasts, right? With the
Yeah.
Notebook LM
I've
from Google,
crazy.
right?
Yeah.
You stick in a paper there, and then it'll build you a podcast of two
build it
people
for
that
you.
sound like humans talking about it. I mean, it's like, whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's nuts. I mean, AI's ability to make information accessible is incredible. You know, all of
Yeah,
a sudden, a human being can access exponentially more because you're able
yeah,
to tailor the information. You don't have to go slog through all of this other stuff. You let the AI do
yeah.
that and you pull out the gems you need.
Yeah. My
It's amazing.
psychiatrist uses ChatGPT to listen to her talk with her patients in therapy sessions, HIPAA compliant too. Um, and it writes 7 highly detailed scientific notes from your therapy session. And then it does that for every session. So if I have 20 sessions with her, it can notice trends over time, including like what I'm wearing, because she'll comment, oh, nice t-shirt today, right? And that gets put in the notes. And that helps the system and her track her patients over time to see it is their mental health increasing or decreasing, right? And it's catching mistakes that she makes. She says it's going to be malpractice soon not to use AI in therapy because it can listen to the conversation in a way that she just can't. And it lets her focus on her patients in a much better way, she says. But it caught one of these patients. He mentioned psoriasis in one of his therapy sessions, which is a skin disease. That's a marker for depression, and so it caught some mental health thing that she just missed because she didn't hear it or didn't focus on it or didn't recognize it was a thing that keeps coming up with this patient, right? And the AI can go through 20 weeks of therapy with this patient and see patterns that a human it's hard for a human to see.
That's fascinating because that's actually been one of the most surprising things to me about AI is how effective current LLMs are already at providing therapy.
Yeah.
Because if you had told me that when I first started using ChatGPT, like I would have was like, yeah, sure, like I'm sure that it's good for just like chatting to here and there. But there's been not only anecdotal stories like that, but I've read a couple. I think they've just been like archived preprints or whatever. But I've read a couple studies that seem fairly legitimate regarding using language models in therapy, and they're very, very promising so far.
The system she built with another entrepreneur only listens and really doesn't provide therapy. It's just to make notes for her because she has to take notes on her patients, right? She used to have to hand write those. And she told me that means I'm not paying attention to you. I'm having to write down things that you're saying and be scientific about it, right? So that she can see these patterns over time. Yeah, but you're right. This is going to really change mental health because most people don't have the ability to go and see a therapist in the world, right?
Right. Yeah.
They might not have insurance. They might not be able to get to one. They might live in the middle of nowhere, right? The mental health care in even America alone is spotty at best, right? And so this will help a lot of people. at least figure out what the hell's going on in their mind, what's causing them problems, right? And
Yeah, we all could use
hopefully
more of
lead to
that.
a better care. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It, it,
Um,
if you're standing in front of a slot machine in Las Vegas, it'll tell you how your brain works and how your brain is getting addicted to the slot machine.
yeah,
Like, why
seriously.
is your brain generating dopamine when the slot machine is running? Right? It's like, oh, this AI thing knows a lot of
Yeah,
things.
it can help a ton.
LLMs.
Um, yeah, yeah, LLMs. So I I know Spencer, you kind of asked a similar question, but with specifically art, we've had a couple
Yeah.
AI artists come on, and obviously they feel very passionate about AI art. I
Yep.
have a sister who is a fine artist, does oil painting, things like
Yeah.
this, and she's on the fence. She's trying to decide, do I like AI or do I not?
Yeah.
Do you have any, is art as we know it kind of going to be gone? Is AI just going
No.
to take it over?
I mean, I've been in art museums all over the world. No, I mean, we can't duplicate, like an oil painting is a good example. In fact, on my phone, I have a good video of an oil painting in Sun Valley, Idaho. I just saw it has texture to it. It has depth to it.
Hmm.
It's hard to replicate analog, real world, right? This stuff doesn't take away from the analog, from the real world stuff. It adds on to it and or gives us
Hmm.
a new medium to express ourselves.
Hmm.
um, and I'm very bullish on AI art. I have a list of 3,200 AI artists on X.com that
Okay.
I follow, and they're doing amazing things, from movies to pictures to music.
Yeah.
All sorts of things are happening. Um, Commercial viability is still a little rough because you can't copyright AI art, according to
Hmm.
several of the
Right.
court systems in the world, right? So that's unclear. I've been excited about it because I know where we're heading, and that's a holodeck. And someday soon, you're going to be talking to a, a holodeck, a bunch of volumetric pixels around you, a Gaussian splat, if you want to be. And the AI is going to generate things. I just saw a crude demo of this at Cap Gemini, where they built a room where you talk to the room and say,
Hmm.
"Hey, I want to go to the Taj Mahal," and then a few seconds later, you're in the Taj Mahal. You're in front of the Taj Mahal, all the way around you, right? And it generated
Yeah.
them,
Well.
right, from all of the pictures that it has to choose from, and that'll get better and better and faster and faster. I'm seeing so many AI research papers about Gaussian splats and segmentation of
Hmm.
objects, right? Oh man, there's so much coming. It's the AI artists who are going to be really skilled at building those, right?
Yeah.
I have some friends who are AI artists who've done 300,000 prompts already. So they understand deeply how to talk to this engine and how to get
Hmm.
something really interesting out of
Hmm.
it. In a way I can't,
Yeah.
because I just
And
don't
that's what's
have the
interesting is,
vocabulary. Go ahead.
yeah, people think, oh, anyone can do AI art. Let me watch, and they type something in and
Yeah, you
get
can get
something.
something out of it, right? But
And talking to, yeah,
are you
it's
getting
different.
something at the top end out of it? No, no, no. Come and
Yeah.
watch. I reshare the best of the best. These people are very creative people, and
Hmm.
if you don't have the art background, you don't have a huge vocabulary to talk about with the AI engine, right? If you don't know who Picasso is, how do you ask it to give you something like Picasso, right?
Right.
Or if you
Right.
don't know what
Right.
oil painting is or what a technique is, right? How do you ask it to give you that kind of technique? In photography, if you don't know f-stops and shutter speeds and film types and camera types, you're not going to get as good an image out of it as somebody who does know all that, right?
Yeah.
So you still
Yeah.
need to know
Hmm.
a lot about art to create AI art.
Yeah. And I think
Right.
it's so new that it's difficult for people to still key. It's extremely difficult for people to key in on the nuances
Yeah,
because to them it's digital art.
yeah,
It's digital, but
yeah,
it's like let's look a little closer here and actually think about what it took to get it to look slightly different. I think
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see the first AI art critic and what they look at and how they
Oh,
evaluate.
there's a few of them. There's contests and movie, festivals for AI movie festivals, because there's a good group of people who are creating movie, little
Yeah,
movies
that's
with
cool.
it, or
Hmm.
fun stuff, right? It's, you know, I talked with Ansel Adams' son, and he gave me a tour around Yosemite. Ansel Adams, a famous photographer, took lots of pictures in
Hmm.
Yosemite and other places,
Hmm.
national parks and other places like that. And Ansel Adams started his career as a pianist. Who his dad took him to Yosemite with a little Kodak box camera, and he just couldn't get the emotional content that he felt by being in Yosemite. And he dedicated his life to, he developed a new kind of, he called it a zone system, where he was trying to get more dynamic range in his black and white photos to show things in the darks and in the brights. Right now, our iPhone does this
Hmm.
all automatically, but he was an
Yeah.
innovator that tried to bring us a better photographic representation of Yosemite. Well, now I can take a camera and capture the whole valley in a whole way that he could never do, right? And
Yeah.
then I can start messing with that and remixing it, right? Taking Half Dome and putting some AI
Hmm.
art from Midjourney on it, right? And messing with it in a way that he could never do, right? And so it's an exciting time. I get that people are angsty about, my I'm not work as my work doesn't have as much value if this goes on. I I,
Hmm.
I disagree, because of, if somebody who's a real artist gets into AI art, you can add on to the physical art with AI, right? Because
Yeah.
someday people are going to be wearing glasses looking at your paintings, right? And so if you can make that, do something, uh, because the camera sees your painting and goes, "Oh, this is Jane Smith's painting," right? Let's augment that and make a whole world around it, right? Now all of a sudden, does the old art have value? Yeah. And does the new art have value? Yeah. And
Hmm.
together they could build something really interesting for a modern art museum, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating world. So I'd be curious. It sounds like you probably think the answer to this is yes. But do you think AGI or ASI, either both or one, do you think that those are attainable?
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna get them someday. Um, some people say it's already here. I mean, it does know a lot, and I mean, it knows every freaking thing in the Smithsonian. I went through the Smithsonian this summer, taking pictures of, all sorts of tractors and all sorts of shit that you see in the museum there. It knew everything. I don't know a single human being, even those who work in the museum, who know
Yeah.
everything
Right.
about every object in the museum, right? So is that leading us to a world where digital intelligence is going to be better than us? I think it does. When does everybody decide it's way fucking better than a human being? Eh, 2 years, 5 years, today, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not long. Here this one X company, right? They spilled some coffee on a table, and then they told the robot to clean it up. If you have AGI, the robot's going to recognize it needs to clean up a mess on its own, right? Why does it need to be
Mhm.
told to clean up a mess? You don't need to be told to clean up a mess if you see a mess, right?
Hmm.
So we're still a little ways away, but you can see a path for that robot is going to get more
Yeah.
intelligence so that it can figure out its world better than it can today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you, Robert? I'd be curious your definite, because I'm starting to realize that different people kind of have different things in mind when they talk
Yeah,
about AGI.
yeah.
Can you give us your, like, what is AGI? What does that mean? What does that look like?
I mean, the best one is, can it create on its own? Can it
Mhm.
actually invent something? And AI is close. I mean, we're using it to discover new drugs and
Hmm.
discover new medical techniques and stuff like that. Um, eh, so in a way it's sort of already there, but it's not, right? If you use a chat GPT, it still has you have to prompt it. You have to give it
Right.
something to get an answer back. It's not doing it on its own, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it could do that on its own, yeah, that real important in the robot world, right?
Yeah.
And certainly Tesla next week's going to announce their robo taxi, which is transportation as a service. Well, do those cars figure out where they need to go on their own? Right now, something needs to tell them where to go, but soon they're going to start doing their own thing. Like, oh, there's a music festival letting out at 5 p.m. today. Maybe we should move a whole bunch of cars toward the music festival so that we'll be ready to pick up people coming out of the music festival, something like that, right? And you can see a path to that. I have a feeling it's going to fool us way before it technically is, right? Because we're foolable. It already knows a lot of things, right? So that all knowingness is going to fool a lot of normal people and going, man, this is dope, right? You know, it's like this knows this is, man, this is like better than a human in a lot of ways, right? And in some ways, it already is better than a human being in ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've already had lawyers get in trouble for citing ChatGPT outputs that cite imaginary cases, which is, hilarious to me that they didn't double check that. And also a sign of things to come. There's going to be so many people who think that, all of the sovereign citizen type dudes who, go to court for a speeding ticket and then end up in jail for contempt of court. Like, that's going to happen a lot faster now.
Or because the Tesla next to you took video of you running the stop sign, right?
Seriously.
Or your own Tesla videoed you running your stop sign, right? Because I have a video, I have a Tesla with a camera aimed at me, right, while I'm driving around. So now they claim they don't take the interior camera and do anything with it, but how many years is that going to be true? Right? It's a new world we're heading into. Plus, we're going to be wearing glasses soon with cameras. I mean, you might have a pair of Ray-Bans from Meta Corporation that have a camera in it. It can tell you what you're looking at already, right?
Yeah.
And so take that a few more steps to where it's able to really process that quickly and do it with video. And how many years are we away from that? A year?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
In labs, it's already here, right?
Robert, what do you think about everything going on with Neuralink? Do you think like
wires
glasses?
on your brain? I mean, I mean, this is on the outside of your head, right? So they don't have to put wires on your brain for this kind of idea. But putting wires on your brain lets you hook directly up to the brain and get a much better resolution. So it'll do stuff like that device does, but far, far more accurately. It opens a Pandora's box. And
I know, it's kind of boggles my mind.
Well, it takes away free will, first of all. And it potentially takes away the illusion of free will, because we really don't have true free will today. You can't do whatever you want. You can't shoot him in the head and continue your life like nothing happened. So there's we talk about that a lot on Dylan's researcher at Unity Labs, and we do Twitter space or X spaces every night, or every couple of nights, talking about consciousness and all these topics. Once you put wires on your brain, the person who put the wire on your brain can control you, right? I saw a surgery where the patient was cut open and his head was cut open and he was awake, and the surgeon was probing his brain and touching it. And at one point he touched it in his hand, and the patient involuntarily raised his hand up, took the thing out of his brain and went down and put it back in. So you're a little puppet. If somebody has wires on your brain, you can be made to do anything, right? In the theoretical ultimate of this, right? And so that leaves us with a whole bunch of new problems that I think we're going to need regulation to control, and You're going to have a lot of trust in the company that puts that thing in your brain, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you have a spinal injury, you don't care about any of this argument because it'll help you walk or just live life or be on, playing games like the first guy who got the Neuralink tells about. And so there's a lot of good that this is going to bring, but it does open a Pandora's box where,
Yeah.
ooh,
Where's the line?
yeah, and what happens if this company goes bankrupt and you have a bunch of wires in your head and then they stop working or don't get updates anymore? There's a whole bunch of problems there. So yeah, it's a scary technology, but one that really empowers human beings potentially a lot, right? And how do you want to talk to your AI, with your mouth or just thinking?
Just your
I want to
brain.
just
Yeah.
think and have the
And then
models
can
just
you
do
think
things.
to another human? That's where I'm like, you know
Yes.
what I mean? Like, because it's
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
telepathy is not that far away, you know?
No. Yeah. And
It's going to be a
certainly,
Thoughtcast in 3 years.
Yeah,
yeah. And
podcast.
that leads to another problem, right? If you really had a lot of wires hooked up to your brain, it can tell what your thinking process is. And now do you remove the human's ability to have a deliberation with themselves, about anything, about sexuality or whether you're going to do something nasty to somebody else, right? Because you have to have that ability to have that internal dialogue with yourself. Then you take action and you decide who you are. And
Right.
here the wires could be listening to you having that internal conversation and get involved, and that leads to a whole another Pandora's box, right? That's interesting to talk about right now, but I don't know. It's a little ways away because the surgery costs $150,000 right now,
Right. Right.
and has a lot of side effects, and the science is not close to being a consumer product yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a product for a guy with a spinal injury or something like that, because it improves his life, but it sure does open up a lot of problems for people in the future. But it also gives us a lot of new powers, and
Yeah.
I'm about the human superpower, make us
Yeah.
superpowers, give us
Yeah.
superpowers, right? And that's what AI really does, and what
Yeah.
this Neuralink kind of thing or brain computer interface will do, right?
I'd be curious. So, from your perspective, what do you think uh, AI developers, users, enthusiasts can do to better communicate to those who are not enthusiastic about AI? Has
That's an
there
interesting
been
question.
anybody who has kind of been a good example?
I tell them it reads the Bible to you, right? What do you mean? What do you mean? Well, you can take a picture of any book. I use this with the little machine learning book I have. It has a lot of math in it that I don't understand. So I take a picture of the page and then ask ChatGPT, "Can you help me here? I'm
That's awesome.
struggling."
Yeah.
Well, if it can do that with a machine learning book, it can do that with the Bible too. And tell me more about this passage in the Bible, right? And now you're
Yeah.
talking with regular everyday people
Yeah.
about their world and how it might affect them and help them do what they're doing. Truth is, a lot of people are going to resist this.
Yeah.
I've noticed this over and over in my career. Every time there's a paradigm shift, everybody resists. 1 million people protested the Facebook news feed when it turned on, right? Yet now we all use news feeds everywhere, right? Twitter has
Yeah.
news feeds, LinkedIn has news feeds, Threads has news feeds, right? Yeah, 1 million people protested, right, when it first turned on, because it's new, it represents change, it represents some new problems, right? And people are up in arms. And the same thing's going to be true here. There is a ton of resistance for AI, a lot of disdain for it, a lot of fear of it, mostly surrounding jobs, but there are some other fears. I mean, I just mentioned some fears in Neuralink, that there are legitimate fears. Technology always brings a benefit and a bunch of new problems, right? Cars
Yeah.
Right.
kill 40,000 people in America every year, right? Yet we all still drive cars because the technology brought us a good along with some new bad. Now we're trying to
Right.
fix the bad, right?
Yeah, I like what you're saying. So make it relatable and applicable to their life.
Yeah. And I think we can have that conversation with anybody, but getting them to change and getting them to go from I hate this thing to using it and being happy with it, that's going to take a while, you
Hmm.
know. And it just keep coming with the benefits, you know. People
Hmm.
eventually will get, oh, this is really useful, right?
Yeah.
When it starts answering your email and saving you an hour a day, you know, oh, that's useful.
Right. Right.
Right? Driving your car around and driving you around and making transportation cheaper and more useful. Oh, that's useful, right? And
Yeah.
by the way, Google knows this. Google knows
Hmm.
that the auto industry asked me to do a bunch of customer research and going around America and asking a question like, are you ready to get in a car without a steering wheel? And everybody says, fuck no. One guy in Kansas told me, I'm a narcissistic control freak, he told me, and there's no fucking way a computer's driving me around.
In your dreams. Yeah.
Now, Google had the data 10 years ago to know that if that guy got 3 days of rides in a Waymo, he would switch his mind or her mind and say, I'm in, right?
Yeah.
Because you see the utility. Oh, I can use my phone while the car drives me around, or I can watch a movie, or I can,
Right.
talk to my friends, or I can sleep eventually, right? Certainly in a Waymo, you can,
Mhm.
drive around San Francisco or Austin or wherever. Um, the second question I ask is, are you willing to get in a car that drives to you, but then gives you a choice? And everybody said yes, because even the narcissistic control freak is like, that lets me be in control and I'm happy. So,
Hmm.
you
Mhm.
know, um, and that's Tesla, right? It's
Right.
Tesla.
That's what
Tesla has a
they've got
steering
it.
wheel, and we'll soon have full autonomy. Whether it's next year or the year after or the year after that, it's coming, and it's coming pretty quick in human
Yeah.
history. So, yeah, humans are fun to study, aren't they?
Yeah. They
They
are.
really are.
Yeah.
They
Robert, do you
actually
think?
switch once you get a ride in a self-driving car. You actually switch as a consumer because you learn to trust a computer with your life. And
Mm,
then if you trust a computer with your life in a car, you're going to trust it with everything. You're going to trust
yeah.
your business
Yeah.
with the AI. You're going to trust your life, your health to AI, right? You switch over to being a new kind of consumer. So that's our goal, is to get them over that bump,
Hmm.
Yeah.
get them into a self-driving car, get them to use Chat GPT, and things
Yeah.
like it. Yeah, it'll read the Bible to you is a good way to start with a lot of people, right?
Yeah. And just until it's tangible, people, it's this existential threat. But once
Yeah,
it's a
Right.
tangible, oh, I can just it's feels like a search engine kind of. I can just type into Chat GPT. I can take a picture. I can do these things. Once it's tangible, I feel like it's no longer this alien. It's just a technology, and
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
yeah.
as scary. Um,
True.
yeah. So
Cultural change is really hard inside. I'm
yeah.
talking to a lot of companies who are trying to get corporations to change and allow it on factory
Hmm.
floors and stuff like that. And it's a tough one, but they're all having to face it because you're going to be out of business if you don't use it soon, right?
Right. Yeah.
Uh, China has fully automated factories building cars now. And, yeah, we can keep them out of America for a while and protect the auto industry here that doesn't do that. But you can't protect them forever,
Right.
right? Elon Musk is going to learn how to do that. And he has a factory here in America, right? So
Mhm.
if you're not keeping up to date and or being competitive, you're going to go away. And I've seen company after company resist technology changes and they go away, right? Eastman
Hmm.
Kodak, they invented the digital camera. They had it. They knew what was coming. Well, they didn't really, but they were run by a bunch of chemical engineers. I got kicked out of their booth in 1989 for knowing more about their digital color printers than they did, right? They really weren't very evangelistic about digital photography back then, because it was right at the beginning of that.
Mm.
And they were run by chemical engineers. That's who ran Kodak, and now they're gone. That was
Yeah.
that was a big dramatic company in America, and it's gone, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't keep up. They didn't invest.
Yeah.
Xerox had the whole industry in one building in Silicon Valley. They let it go because they resisted. Their executives thought it was gonna, the new desktop printing that those guys invented was gonna put their copier business out of work, is what the fear was, right? So
I like that.
convincing people.
Keep going.
Oh no, convincing people to change is really hard. You saw the dock worker guy, right? Who ran the dock worker, or runs the dock worker union. He was like, I am not for any automation, right? I want humans to do every job because they're going to pay me, part of their
Right.
salary, and I want more of that. And I don't want, automation, even though China has automation and their ports are way more efficient than ours are,
Right.
which is holding back our country. So how is this going to work out for you long term? At some point, we're going to force them to change. We have to. Otherwise, we're going to be hurting
Become
ourselves.
irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do you convince that guy to change?
Yeah.
If you have dinner with that guy, what are you going to tell him about automation and get him to start, saying, "Oh, I see a path to change." Right.
Right.
It's a tough one.
It'll be really tough.
Yeah.
In a similar vein here, just do you think these, like I said earlier, we've talked to all these small business, these founders, these AI founders building these from the ground up, trying to build these companies. Do you think they've got a shot, or do you think they're all going to be eaten by OpenAI, Apple, Amazon?
Jeremiah Oyang at his AI event in San Francisco last week said there's only going to be one app eventually. That you're just going to talk to one thing, interact with one thing, and it's going to do everything. So the web, he sees that as going to eat the web, and you see it, right? You can, when you start talking to Chat GPT about, what's the hours on my on Supercuts, it goes out and looks at 3 different websites and then brings the answer back to you, right?
Yeah.
Well, now you're not using the websites anymore. You're using Chat GPT or an AI front end that'll do that. And I can see that having a big effect, a big roll up effect on the web and on everything else. The main AI is not going to do everything. So it's going to still need to call, like there's a new spreadsheet tool that I just interviewed, Paradigm, right? And her spreadsheet's cool because if you have a list of customer names and a list of customer addresses, you can start up a third column and prompt to the column and say, oh, I want all the social media addresses for these people. And it sends, let's say you have 1,000 names, it starts up 1,000 agents, goes out to the internet and starts bringing all that stuff back into your spreadsheet. Well, is Chat GPT going to have a spreadsheet interface like that? Probably not. So if it needs a spreadsheet interface, it will probably know about Paradigm, right? So it could call into Paradigm and then say, okay, here's your spreadsheet interface. And who gets paid in that business? Oh, that's an interesting one, right? But Paradigm has a $20 a month fee, right? So maybe if you approve it, it'll pay Paradigm the $20 to do the new spreadsheet. So I don't know that I don't think it all goes away, but certainly the usage changes dramatically because we're going to be talking with one AI in our glasses that's going to fire up a whole bunch of other things behind the scenes. How this all works out. But you can see there's disruption coming for the top level thing. Are we using an Uber app in 10 years? I don't know. And if you do, it's probably hidden on your phone and you never touch it anymore because you're talking to Siri. Hey Siri, I need a ride to San Francisco in 10 minutes. Can you make that happen? And it makes it happen, right? And then all of a sudden a ride showing up and it tells you that, and maybe even brings pieces of the user interface into the main chat or interface that you're talking with, right? Uh, does that help Uber? Not really. It takes away some of their brand and some of their, their touch points. And now we have a relationship with like Chat GPT. So yeah, it's a problem. It's always been a problem though. I
Yeah.
worked at Visual Basic Programmers Journal, which is uh, the hot programming tool in the 1990s for building Windows apps, right? And they had a toolbar where you could add on all sorts of components, like a spreadsheet component or a charting component or whatever. And all of those guys who made those little components, they called it riding the elephant. They knew that Microsoft would copy them or license them or crush them some point, and they often did. Micro Help had a really nice spreadsheet component for a while, and then 2 years later Visual Studio puts the spreadsheet component into Visual Studio and really does away with the company, right? Or does away with that part of their company. And they knew that game, and they said, we have to innovate and bring out new controls every year because we know some of them are going to get subsumed by the mothership and done away with, right? The elephant would step on you. Right? And that's why they call it riding an elephant. It's like, how do you stay on top of this elephant? It'll buck you off and then step on you once in a while. And same thing is going to happen here. Apple and Google and Chat GPT, if they see a cool idea like a new spreadsheet that's really cool, they're going to start trying to figure out how to use that or integrate that into the main interface. So yeah, there will be a lot of that effect, but if you're very focused on a very specific kind of person, your customer is like, a spreadsheet person, yeah, you can innovate far faster than the big company can. That has to do everything. Chat GPT has to be a general tool that does everything well. Well, it's not going to do a spreadsheet well. It's at least for a while, right? So there's still plenty of room for most of these companies. I mean, go through my holodeck list. There's 700 companies in there, and there's all sorts of weird shit that people are building companies to do, like,
Yeah.
right. So, yeah, it is what it is. This is the competitive landscape, and it will change, and you have to stay ahead, and some will go away and some will do real well.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. So, Robert, as we're wrapping up here, if our audience wants to follow you or follow any of your podcasts, etc., what would be the best place to do that?
For me, X is the best place to be in AI. And I know some people hate Elon Musk or whatever, but I can't follow 25,000 people anywhere else and share that with you, right?
Yeah.
On LinkedIn, you can have 30,000 connections total, and then you're done. And you can't put those people into lists so that I can watch, like, what are all the AI CEOs doing versus the tech journalists versus the investors versus, people who are working in autonomous cars or computer vision. I have lists of all these people, right? And so I can see what the computer vision people are doing separate from the CEO people, right?
That's really cool.
And I just can't do that anywhere else. And and so I'm able to watch a lot of information and share it back out in a way that I just couldn't do on Threads or Facebook or Mastodon or whatever. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Come and look at my profile, Scobleizer, and go check out the lists. You can go view lists on the profile, and you'll find the entire AI industry there, and a whole lot of others. I have a great list of crypto, a great list of security people. So,
everything.
Yeah, because I keep them all up to date because the AI shows me new people, right? If you join X today and post something, it'll probably show it to me, and I'll put you in a list, right? So, and I'm doing that all day long. In 2 months, in the last 2 months, I've added another 5,000 people. So it's a constant process of being able to see the whole world. Yeah.
Love it. Before we wrap up, Robert or Spencer, is there anything you wanted to talk about or touch on that we haven't gone to?
We could talk for hours.
I know
I
there's
think
endless.
you covered
We'll
some
have to
good
do another one.
top level things. I mean, I'm not a programmer, so I can't tell you how to make your agents run better or anything like that.
I know.
That'll be another guest.
Yeah.
No, that there's just a lot hitting people, and a lot of change is coming.
Hmm.
You know, I'm seeing AR glasses coming that are really pretty interesting now.
Yeah.
Probably toward the end of next year. Snap and Facebook are showing off sort of prototypes or developer previews,
Mhm.
stuff like that, but they're not for consumers yet. They're not down in a price point that average everyday people can pay for them, and they're not fully developed yet. So you just look at the next 24 months or so, and you see a lot of change coming for things. And then you see the whole AI industry, and they're building crazy things, that trying to
Yeah.
help businesses automate or help
Hmm.
people automate their lives. I'm about to put up 2 videos from 2 separate companies that are doing email AI uh, AI integrated email systems that do
Yeah.
answer your emails and look at your past emails to try to figure out how you word things to the specific
Totally.
person, right? It's like, whoa, there's a lot coming and a lot of change ahead, because if you're not using an AI tool for answering your email, you soon will be, right? And so
Hmm.
that alone takes a little bit of time to learn how to work with it, and to trust it, right?
Right.
And to work with it, and force yourself to work with it. I call this
Right.
AI first thinking. Are you forcing yourself to use AI for every fucking thing you can? Obviously, I'm not using it on this call, but I should be, right? It should be talking in my ear like, oh, did you bring up this topic? Did you bring...
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Robert, thank you so much for coming on. We look forward to everything that you have going on and keeping tabs on the whole industry. Thanks for updating those lists. We'll
Yeah, and
definitely
I'm
get that
changing my book.
disseminated to everybody.
Irina and I are rewriting our spatial computing book that should be out hopefully later this year.
Great.
Because I wrote 2 books on spatial computing before Apple shipped. Well, now Apple shipped,
Mhm.
so it needs a rewrite because
Yeah.
everything's starting to change on that front. So,
Excellent.
yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.